Okay. Good morning, Jasmine and Trevor, and to whom it may concern. So for this tutorial, um, I have a screen capture app that allows for 10 minutes at a time. So I'll probably chop this up into 2 or 3 chapters. But within each chapter, I'm going to try and run live, warts and all. Jasmine, you can review, and if there's anything that is not well explained, let me know, and I'll have another go at it. I'm going to take a look at it myself, and I may re-record small portions if they aren't as good as they could be. But for the most part, like I say, I'm going to try and run live here. I'm learning as we go as well, so we'll see what pops up. It might be worthwhile to take a quick look at the overall purpose of this project. So the Helium company is building out a network to service IoT devices. IoT. That stands for Internet of Things. The Internet of Things are basically any piece of equipment that is not your computer or your smartphone, but requires internet connectivity. Again, any piece of equipment that requires internet connectivity, but is not your cell phone or your computer. Some examples of this might be fleet of cars, car fleet. It could be, I don't know what you have in your city, but here in Calgary, the city owns a lot of these electric scooters that they rent out to people, and they need to be tracked. It could be air quality monitors. It could be a farmer wanting to know soil conditions. It could be something as simple as blinds or drapes that close across your windows based on a certain temperature. So there's projected to be billions of these devices deployed over the next 3 to 5 years. Reason being is they're ubiquitous. There's so many applications that they can be applied to, and there may be a lot of them within one company or industry. I mean, if you take a look at a fleet of car, a 200 company might have a 200 count car fleet. If you extrapolate that out, you'll quickly see that there's going to be billions of them. Having said that, we don't want to use the existing cellular networks for IoT communications. Reason being is that it's too expensive, and it may not be the best solution to the question. IoT devices are relatively simple in that they may only report 1 or 2 data points per hour. So we want to avoid the cellular network. These are simple devices, and there's going to be a lot of them. So Helium is addressing that by building out not a cellular network, but a low-RAN network, which stands for a long-range wide area network. And the IoT devices will report their data to what we call a miner, M-I-N-E-R, like mining for gold. So these are transceivers. These units take the data supplied by the IoT devices and networks it. Sort of pass it down the line to other miners, and finally it'll get to an aggregation point where all the data is collected together. So that's how Trevor is hoping to take over the world, is by deploying these miners, which is the first point of contact for the IoTs. And Helium is allowing just regular folk to build these out, and eventually there will be probably billions of those as well that interact and communicate with the IoT devices. So In the telecom industry, you'll probably hear a lot of the term radio, radio waves, the radio spectrum. Now this is not necessarily referring to the radio in your car that you listen to music on. It includes that, but it is not limited to that. In the broader context in telecom, when we speak of radio, what we're referring to is the invisible electromagnetic waves that propagate through the air and allow for wireless communications. Okay? So these radio waves, they all travel at the speed of light, but the way they propagate through the air, they all have their own, what we call a frequency, and that is the number of times, the number of revolutions per second that particular wave exhibits. So it'll have a peak value, and it'll drop down to its minimum and back up again as it propagates through the air, and that's where we get the frequency. Now, frequencies exist naturally, and they run from basically nothing to billions and trillions, into the billions and trillions. So maybe an oversimplification, but a little illustration might help. If we take two guitars in a room, and one guy's playing a a country tune, and the other guy's playing a rock and roll guitar, there's going to be a clash between the two, and they're going to be in each other's way, and the music won't be sounding very good. So we might request the rock and roll guitar to go down the hall to another room where he can play in peace and quiet, and the country guitar can do the same. We need to do something similar in the telecom field. Now what we do is we divide up this spectrum. So we've got varying frequencies again, from 0 to into the billions and trillions. We divide up that radio spectrum, and we take the musical information supplied by the country guitar, and we plop it on top of what we call the carrier frequency. And so this carrier frequency will propagate through the air, and once it reaches your car, your car radio strips away that carrier frequency, and what we're left with is the country guitar. And in Calgary, the country station is 105 FM. So that's not coincidental. 105 is 105 megahertz, and using our metric prefixes, that is 105 million hertz per second. That is the carrier frequency. Similarly, the rock station is 107. So 107 megahertz, 107 million hertz per second, that we sit the musical information on top of and send that signal out. When it reaches the radio, again, the carrier frequency matches, strips away that 107, and you're left with the rock and roll guitar. And that's why you tune your radio to 107 to pull off that carrier frequency, and you listen to your music.